Today, I would like to talk about no one is gone, transform your future now. Actually, there are so many things to talk about. The no one is gone. As you take a look at this slide, like stay home, be safe, keep your distance, don't go out, write a letter, read a book, online chat, and phone a friend, etc., etc. Many of you already have seen this interesting question: who led the digital transformation of your company? Is it CEO or CTO or COVID-19? It's COVID-19 because many people were hesitant to embrace the change. Today, what I'm going to talk about is pretty much is about the change and the innovation and then transformation, because those are the keywords for us to survive. COVID-19 just accelerate the situation. Some companies I will introduce later also that they are facing the difficulties. It's not necessarily because of COVID-19, it's because those companies were already on the decline even before the COVID-19 came. So if you go back to normal, old normal, you might be failing. So you have to accept the new normal. So what happens is some people say that, oh no, once we have this vaccine for COVID-19, it's okay, we will go back to old normal. But that's really the point? Or do we really have to think about how we are going to embrace changes and how we are going to prepare ourselves under the new normal? Because this is about experiences, and I will get to that later more in detail. Okay, next slide, please. So now I just want to talk about a little briefly about online education, and because whether you like it or not, I mean, some people say that, oh, I really like a personal touch. I really like a personal human relationship. So I really want to see people, and then I want to learn together with them. They are our like a cohort. But as you can see now, we don't have a choice because we really have to study online because it's very dangerous without the vaccine. We don't even know who actually has the symptom, but who doesn't have the symptom but also is infected already. And that's a really challenging situation. Some countries say that, oh no, we are now, it's a 0% of infection. So what? You have to be stuck in your country. We cannot travel abroad anyway. So it's not about one country has 0% of infection and then you'll be very happy, but still our daily life already has changed dramatically since we cannot travel to another country and we cannot study abroad either at the moment. So we have to embrace this change. The online education actually kind of boring. I mean, it's very challenging. And it's also, unless you have a very strong self-discipline, it's not gonna be that easy, especially when you're at work and also have to study at the same time. It's going to be a very challenging. But as I said, COVID-19 presented us with a great opportunity for us to kind of, the situation kind of forced us to learn online, whether you like it or not. And myself also, I have been taking a lot of online courses from the Ivy League universities and very good schools around the world. I think this COVID-19 kind of popularized people's learning. And then I think that it took actually the learning experience to the next level. Because before I didn't like online courses, I didn't want to study online, but now COVID-19 forced me to do so. And then we are getting used to it. And once we have this situation, COVID-19 is ended, and then do we really have to go back to an old normal? Or are we going to be already used to learning online like this? Maybe even more productive, cost effective, maybe less time consuming. And then we can also meet with these great professors and thought leaders easily. And even though the Professor Clayton is actually passed away, but still all these courses are actually available online, which is really a wonderful experience for those people who didn't like study online. All these companies like Nokia or Samsung, Galaxy Note 7, Hertz, Vaio, like Sony laptop, and you know that Kodak also. Kodak is the one who created the digital camera for the first time in the world, but they didn't want to kill off their film industry. That's why they didn't commercialize it, and that's why they faced their demise. And JCPenney was one of the oldest departments in the United States, but lately they have to file for bankruptcy. It's really not because of COVID-19. That JCPenney, for example, hasn't generated the profits since 2010 already. So that company was going to have a difficulty anyway. And then COVID-19 just accelerated its demise. So why I talk about all these companies now, actually Kodak, Sony, or Samsung Galaxy Note 7 or Nokia have nothing to do with COVID-19. But on the other hand, all these companies have one thing in common, that they didn't foresee the future exactly. So if you take a look at those keywords like a future, preparedness, and foresight, so unless you can see, or unless you can predict or try to see what's going to happen in the future, maybe today you don't know what's going on, and you don't know what you have to prepare. So that's why you always try to see what's going to happen in the future by collecting all the relevant data and also information. In the United States, innovation is the buzzword. And as you can see here, new normal age is already back in 2008. All these things like a singularity, AI, and also machine learning, as you know, the smart manufacturing, all those keywords already has been around us long time. But some companies actually embraced it. Some companies didn't embrace it. Some students prepare themselves for the future. Some students just stick to what they are familiar with or what they are used to. So what are you going to do to prepare yourself? China also, China, they invested so much money in the innovation. And it's not only about the startups, it's not only about the venture companies, or I'm not talking about only business size. I'm talking about, this is about our youngsters, how they have to prepare themselves for the future. So innovation, change, and those keywords, actually, that's something that you really have to think about when you educate yourself. That's why nowadays we talk about the open innovation for successful companies abroad, like Google, Facebook, Tencent. All those companies actually focus on the innovation. And it's about the learning experience also, because entrepreneurs and the students, youngsters, or whether it's young or old, you're not going to work for one company forever. You're not going to work for one organization forever unless you're extremely lucky. So that's why many people have to prepare themselves for the innovation and changes, how they're going to improve themselves in terms of experiences and also the knowledge. If you learn something that is not going to be useful in the next 10 years, then what you're spending your money on, or the time that you're investing in on, maybe it's not worth it. Without you knowing exactly, you might be wasting your time and money, which actually all the knowledge that you're acquiring, and also all those the information and data you try to understand, maybe not going to be useful in the next 10 to 20 years. According to Mr. Heino Nen, who is the General Director of the National Agency for Education in Finland, according to him, they say that 10% only is actually takes place in the formal learning, like the schools, and then 90% actually is out of school. When it comes to that you learn something in your school, it happens to me also that when I was studying in the university and graduate school for MBA, the professors actually use the materials that really they have studied actually a long time ago. And then which actually is not relevant to the current situation, but we just learned it because that's the materials that the professors were familiar with, because that's what they studied when they were younger. But then in retrospect, was it really helpful or not? Doesn't matter, because the formal education accounts for only 10% of our learning. So 90% learning should be done by ourselves. How you are going to acquire knowledge and how you're going to learn and how you're going to educate yourself is really totally up to you, because that at the end of the day, education is not about degrees. It's more about how you're going to make good use of the knowledge, and in combination with your hands-on experiences. So all those two things are actually combined, and then you are going to use those knowledge and experiences to solve the problem. For me, education is not just about to show off that, yeah, I got this degree from this university or that university. It's not going to work in the future, because now, as you can see, many people can learn a lot through online. How you're going to design your learning processes and also learning schedules, or what do you want to learn, is really up to you. But if you focus on that, something that you are already like a conventional things only, then I don't think that you have the bright future. That's why it's important for you to be kept updated on what's going on, not only what's going on at the moment, what is going to happen in the future. Try to foresee like next, let's say 30 years to 40 years. Otherwise, whatever you learn now might be obsolete. We are talking about already the age of the fourth industrial revolution. This is now actually since 2015 in Korea, they talk about this all the time. All these are already mentioned and discussed since a long time ago. But if you are kind of open-minded, then you will know that, oh, okay, this is going to happen. But if you are not really open-minded, and if you think that, oh, no, this is not going to happen in the future. Some people just imagine that. Artificial intelligence, for example, or chatbot, all those things maybe sound not familiar, but you know the terminology, but that's really happening in our daily life or not? Actually, it's already happening. So it's not about the future. So that's why people say that the future is already here. So the future is already now. It means that all those people talk about, okay, this is what's going to happen in the future. Actually, that's already happening now. We move from the hardware to the software-centered society. So before, software was just something that support the hardware. But now software is getting more and more important. There's no such a thing as like a permanent job anymore. So I know that some people think that no, we are going to stick to what we are used to. Actually, that's what happens in Japan in many cases, because people think that resisting like a change is not exactly resisting. It's more about embracing what they have now. There's no such a thing as a job security anymore, because the changes are so fast that without them knowing, it's just that they're not just used to it. They're not just ready for it. But this is exactly what's happening when you have sudden pandemic, and not only talking about the COVID-19. So many changes are happening so quickly. So there's no such thing as you have this permanent knowledge, which will guarantee that you can be in this job forever. So there's no such thing. That's why you really have to develop yourself, and you really have to think about how you're going to educate yourself, that not only for the degree courses, but also in your daily life. I think online courses or online education can be very helpful in that sense. What we need to think about is how you're going to be the first mover. So which actually is relevant to creativity. Startup nation like Israel, or the creative economy, the United Kingdom, some other countries like South Korea, Spain, Indonesia, really it's because they really have to focus on the creativity and how you're going to help people to be educated on creativity. Some people say that, no, you cannot teach creativity, you cannot teach actually innovation because it's something that you are born with. Some geniuses, some people, or some clairvoyant can only see the future. All our education should be really focused on the creativities. It's not about the routine or just memorizing things. Memorizing is no longer relevant, as you know, because we can Google up anytime. So what's more important is that how you're going to help the people to help them with the thinking process, thinking creatively and more innovatively, and thinking out of the box. That's why, if you can see here, many countries actually focus on the fast followers. Like some other countries are already doing it, and then they kind of copy it, and then they bring it to their country, and then they say that, oh, this is what's happening now also. But if you stay forever like a fast followers, then you can never be better as a society and as a country. That's why it's important to focus on the paradigm shift. Education is important. So it means that Korea also used to be more about just memorizing things. For the past few years, and for the past decades, I think the Korean education also tried to focus on the creativity. And that's why they also try to improve the quality of the education rather than just memorizing things. And the regulations are important because regulations, when the entrepreneurs want to do something, try to something innovative and creative, if the regulation cannot keep up, then they will stifle those creative ideas. And public policies, I know that it can be a little bit sluggish. And then vision of individuals, like, for example, so if you have a degree, what do you want to do in the future? You want to just work for the big companies, or you want to be the owner of your own company? By encouraging people, those smart people, according to the statistics, they don't want to open their own business because they know this is really hard. But if you make a societies like a social atmosphere, the encouraging people to be creative and innovative and over the explorative and adventurous, then they will give it a try, because that's what's always happening in Korea. Before, all those people who want to really work for like a Samsung Electronics or LG or big companies, but now those people who have a highly well-educated people, like a doctorate degree holders or master degree holders, more and more of them actually jump into the entrepreneurship and then also the startup and innovation. I just want you to think about what kind of jobs will be disappearing in the next 10 years to 20 years. Are you sure that you are on the right job now? Or are you sure that you are on the right track in terms of education? I'm not going to read all these things, but I want you to just think about that whether you really are focusing on that what you are learning will be relevant in the future. I'm talking about next 30 years. For many things, technology is being adopted. And so here, some jobs might have a bright future because there are certain things that the machine or technology cannot fill up. That's why some people, like a caring industry, might have a better future. I just want you to search it a little bit more so that what you are learning and what you are going to study is really relevant in the future. Otherwise, you might have a tunnel vision. So now you feel like you are very secure, but maybe for the next 20 years and 30 years from now, you might feel that you are really useless. And whatever you learned, and now it might be really not relevant at all. Because of COVID-19, some industries are hard hit, and then some industry really booming even more than before. I just want you to be aware that because this is happening now, but many companies already foresaw, it's not because they kind of predicted or foresaw that the pandemic is going to happen, like Bill Gates. It's not that. Many companies already try to see what's going to happen in the next few years, and they prepare themselves already. So their business models and they're also their staff, their employees are already better ready, prepared. So you try to just look at yourself and just try to foresee what's going to happen next few years. So I want to ask you just very simple but important question for you. So what is most important elements in learning? I know that here is professors, academians here. I know that many of you actually professionals already. But the reason why I emphasize is because I've been working with great people and brilliant people, the thought leaders, but somehow they miss something important, which is make mistakes. Why I say this? Because 72% of the companies and organizations around the world, they all fail in the transformation. I'm not talking about only digital transformation, business transformation. Transformation is about the change of culture. And many people believe that making no mistakes actually is a sign of intelligence. And it means that somebody is very smart. If you never try, do you remember how I told you that the highly educated people don't want to take a risk by doing their own business? Why? Because they are so smart. So they know that the pains will be greater than they just work for the big companies or big organizations. If we have this system, education system, don't let people actually make mistakes. And then when they make a mistake, you just blame them, then we can never achieve anything. This is really fundamental and basic thing. After you graduate from your universities or colleges, and when you start working for any organization, no organization is like people who make a mistake. But if you think about, you try like 100 projects, you make 1-2 mistakes because you are doing so many things. And people who don't do anything, but since they don't do anything, they never make a mistake. But somehow the organizers think that those people who make mistakes look so messy, disorganized. It seems like they are so stupid. But those people who never try anything, be quiet, but they just shine when they have to shine, then it seems like that they are okay. But this is not how you can educate yourself better. So I just want you to think about how you can make mistakes and learn from your mistakes. This is very fundamental, as everybody knows this one, but also many people, even professionals, CEOs, CTOs, whoever that is, doesn't matter whether they're well educated or not, they all the time forget making mistakes anymore because it seems like stupid. So that's why Steve Jobs emphasized, as a student, as a people who have to figure out how you're going to survive in the future, I want you to think about, because innovation is a buzzword, it's not just something that you just want to use for popularity, or it's not about hot or sounds great. It's just more about innovate yourself, because there, as I said, so many changes are happening so quickly. As you know, the only constant in this world is a change. So how you're going to embrace your changes And how you're going to innovate yourself is actually, it boils down to how much you can learn and how you're going to educate yourself. That's why Steve Jobs said it's best to automate them quickly and then get on with improving your other innovations. It's not only about business, it's about our personal life also. As I said, many people are stuck in the big companies, then they believe that they're going to work there forever. But then one day they have to leave. And then what are you going to do? I used to work in Google. I used to work in Samsung Electronics. You can brag about it, but once you get reach a certain age, then you have to leave anyway. So in that case, you are not ready, then you are not going to survive. The best way to predict your future is to create it. Yeah, but how you're going to create it, Peter Drucker said, education. I believe that the continuous and constant learning is the only single most important so that you can survive. Otherwise, you are going to be a dinosaur. Now the changes are so fast. How fast can you learn? How fast can you keep up with all the changes? If you can see this, about the humble beginnings is only because I want you to think about when you see this photo, can you imagine which company is this before? Samsung Electronics used to sell fish. But why I talk about this is because if you look at what you have now as a country, as a society, as a person, it seems like it's a crazy idea for you to imagine that, okay, in the future, I'm going to sell the electronic devices. Can you imagine? If they stick to only what they are familiar with, they will never ever be able to shift their business from this selling like a fish to electronic gadgets. On the left side is a cooker. It was the first product sold by Sony. Can you guess on the right side? This company used to make this like Oriental cars. Nintendo used to make this one before. If they didn't embrace the change, if they just stuck to what they're used to only, then especially the Nintendo was just making like this kind of play cars. And how can they even imagine that, okay, I'm going to make a world best like a game devices? Because I want you to think about your personal life. So if you think that, oh, no, what I have now is very limited, I don't think I can have a dream, or I cannot, I don't think I can transform myself for the future, then I want you to think again, because all these things is possible because if you continue to make efforts, educate yourself, and then also all the time stay abreast of what's going on in the future, in the world, then you can make all the changes. This is also the beginning of the Nike, humble beginnings, talking about the education also. Many people, when they have to learn, they are not educating themselves. They're more like focusing on acquiring the degrees. Why do we learn? Why do we have all these knowledges? Because we want to resolve any issues, problems. And then if you focus on only what you learn, and then education is all about acquiring the degrees, then maybe you will never be practical later. Then you're going to be stuck there. Many people talk about changes. I'm talking about changing in the education system. I'm talking about the change in the any system. So if you take a look at the first illustration, you can see that who wants change, and everybody say, yeah, we want to change. And then who wants to change? And then they say, oh, I don't know, because it's not that easy. And then who wants to lead a change? And nobody's there. Why? Because they are so afraid of changing. If you look at yourself, I want you to think about, from now on, once we have a vaccine for COVID-19, are we really going back to old normal? Or since we are already used to living all this different life now, and also the more effective and more productive, can we really go back to old normal? I don't think so. That's why, and some people say that, oh no, you see, I didn't have to transform myself because everything is going back to old normal once we have this vaccine, and then infection rate somehow disappears or goes down, and then we will go back to old normal. So don't talk about the transformation anymore. But do you really think that that approach is right? I don't think so. So that's why now is the time for you to think about how you're going to bring all these changes into your system, and especially how you're going to help people to be like not vulnerable with all these changes. Because at the end of the day, I believe one thing, that we keep learning because we want to be on top of all these changes, because otherwise we are going to be extinct. Now, thanks to the medical advance, we are going to live a long life. If you think about the longevity itself, maybe we can live up to, take a look at this number, 140 years old or more than 100 years. But when you talk about the young days, it's also different matter. But at the end of the day, when you are done, let's say you retire from the one job to another job, but still you have maybe like 30 more years. So what are you going to do? Are you ready for those years after you retire from your regular job? That's why I talked about the change, embracing changes, innovative ideas, how you're going to make yourself entrepreneurs, how you're going to make your education relevant to the future. Yeah, so life is short. When I say life is short, is that young life is short. When you have to prepare yourself, is still short. Maybe you can live like 142 years old, but you are going to be very old. But preparation should be done when you are even 1 year younger, right? So those stuff that matters.